The series begins in the future in the year 2025, with the emergence of many countries in which a dangerous virus appeared, which makes a person act randomly, as if the person is unable to control his behavior and the person may do dangerous things. And we see that Yasin is a surgeon, and he lost his son during the coronavirus, and he kept punishing himself by distancing himself from people. Yasin is currently working as a blogger and trying to convince people that there is a new virus spreading, but no one believed him. Yasin separated from his wife, Nihal, and she is working as a journalist. So Nihal goes to Yasin and leaves Layla with him, but Yasin has to go to the hospital because there is a patient infected with a new virus, so he leaves his daughter with his neighbor. Her name is Farida, and her husband and daughter, and Farida's husband becomes infected with the new virus, but no one knows. And Yasin goes to the pharmaceutical company to meet his friend Drive Saad, and there he meets Drive Shrook, and she tells Yunus that the company has been working on a virus for a while, whose symptoms are similar to the symptoms of the virus that is currently spreading, and that the company has made a vaccine for the virus, and that the company has orders for the vaccine from outside the country, knowing that at that time no vaccine appeared. Versus officially. Then Yasinai enters. Drive Saad begins to press charges against him because of the virus, but Drive Saad denies all the words, and Yasin leaves and goes. We see Yasin in the hospital, and he discovers that the patient infected with the virus died because another patient infected with the disease killed him by mistake. We go to Dr. Saif, who works with them in the hospital, and he hates Yasin because he loved Yasin's ex-wife and wanted to marry her. At the same time, Yasin discovers that one of the symptoms of the disease is the patient repeating the words, and suddenly he remembers that his neighbor's husband was repeating the blame, so he quickly goes to his neighbor to save his daughter. At the same time, Farida's husband is holding a knife. He caught the virus and began to watch the video that this person had recorded for himself before he died, and he knew that it was transmitted to him from a patient who was in the supermarket. After that, Dr. Yasin knows that the disease is transmitted through the chromagnetic waves with which the virus is transmitted, when a person makes eye contact with another person closely, and that glasses or any eye isolator prevent the transmission of the virus. And we see that the World Health Organization is trying to hide the news for fear that the economy will fall like what happened in Corona. We see Yasin talking to Dr. Salah, and he is Nihal's father, and that Dr. Salah has since returned from Canada and he does not talk to anyone, but Yasin loves to talk to him, so Drive Salah gives Yasin his flash drive. At the same time, Zain ibn Yasin was playing football with his friends and quarreled with his friend. His friend wanted to take revenge on Zain, put him sleeping pills in the juice, took Zain's mobile phone, and wrote a letter to the captain telling him that his father was coming to take him from the hotel, so he did not ride with the rest of the bus team, but we discover the bus driver is infected with the virus, the bus overturned, and with them on the bus was a child named Kareem who was infected with the virus. Yasin calls Nihal to warn her and tell her about what is happening. And Yasin goes to the airport and boards a plane to reach the hotel where his son Zain is, to save him, and while they were on the plane, there are infected people who have spread infection. Between the personnel and the plane's crew, they tried to isolate the injured, but the injured did dangerous and unnatural things, leading to my hand opening the door of the plane in the air, and the plane fell, and Yasin had a wound in his head, and he went to save his son. Indeed, he reaches his son Zain in the hotel, and his son and his friend save him from the fire that was burning in the hotel. When they leave the hotel, they find an armored car equipped with everything, and the man who drives the car, his name is Rami, and he takes them with him. They return to the hospital, but on the way, his neighbor Farida calls him and asks Yasin to save her. When Yasin goes to Farida, he discovers that the infection has spread more, the virus turns them into zombies, and they are attracted to loud sounds, so he tries to distance them from the place using headphones, and he enters the car, and they quickly go to the hospital. Then we see Drive Saad, Drive Shahrukh and Dr. Samay, and they talk about the virus and its seriousness. And we go back to the World Health Organization, while it is still hiding the spread of the virus, and we know from them that they will not be able to use the antibody compounds that are inside the body of the recovering person, as happened in the coronavirus, because no one has recovered from the disease yet. And we go back to Dr. Shahrukh, and she is talking to Nihal on the mobile phone, and she tells her that the company she works for was involved in the spread of the coronavirus, and that what is happening now is caused by other companies. Proving that, but to his surprise, Drive Saad was watching them on cameras, sending men to them, taking their phones from them, and imprisoning them. With her pride, drive. Salah is surprised that the maid in his house is infected with the new virus, so he goes to her himself to kill him because he wants to commit suicide. Then we see Saad escaping and taking the vaccine with him, and waiting for help from outside Egypt, and Saad keeps waiting for a lot, so he calls them and threatens them that he will expose their secret if they do not help him escape, so they send someone to shoot them with bullets and they die. And keep it away, we see the World Health Organization, awareness, announcing the spread of the new virus. And we see that all over the world they have begun to create isolation areas for the injured. Finally, Nihal and Shahrukh find out how to get out of the place for the detainees in it, and they search for the files, but they find that they have been cut off, and Dr. Saif meets them and takes them to the hospital. And we go to a person named Aziz, who married a girl, but she cheated on him with Dr. Saif, and currently she is a porter from Saif, and she was in the hospital to perform an abortion for the child, but because of the spread of the virus and all the doctors were busy, the girl was unable to perform the abortion. We see his father Saif infected with the virus, and he and his sister Huda take him to the hospital and sell him Daha. Saif starts working on his mother experiments until she dies by mistake. We see Huda's son contracted the virus because he was with his mother, Saif, and then the child dies. Huda is shocked by the death of her mother and her son, and she goes crazy, and we learn after that Huda loved Yasin, and she wanted to marry him, but she could not marry him, and she married someone she hated. Saif also loved Nihal, but she married Yasin. That is why Saif hated Yasin and tried to break his relationship with Nihal before they separated. And there were many people in the hospital, including 2 thieves. They wanted to do tests and go from the hospital, but they did not find any means of transportation, so they took an ambulance, but the zombie caught one of them and killed him, and the other stayed in the car, and Dr. Yasin saw him and rescued him, and he entered the hospital. After the thief enters the hospital, he drinks a cigarette, and the fire alarm turns on automatically with a loud sound, so zombies gather around the hospital, as well as the isolated cases inside the hospital, and all zombies try to enter the people who are not injured. And then we see Rami and Yasin trying to cut the alarm wires to stop the sound, but by mistake they cut a part of the electric wire responsible for the hospital's electricity. At the same time, Kareem's father sees his son Kareem and tries to get him to the hospital, but Kareem takes him to the hospital and kills his father. And we go back to Shahrukh, and she is trying to find out the reason, and Shahrukh knows that there is a laboratory called Lab C, and she knew that this factory was involved in manufacturing the virus, and before she reached the rest of the truth, an undercover person came and strangled her until she died. At the same time, Yasin was playing his flash drive with Dr. Salah, and he found in it videos recorded by Dr. Salah, explaining it and saying that I knew that the crow has genes that prevent it from getting cancer, and Dr. Salah wanted to inject these genes into humans in order to prevent humans from getting cancer, and he was trying the first in the mice, and the mice had the same cases of COVID-25, and the mice lived for only 9 days, and then they died on their own. When Dr. Salah discovered that this was a virus, he informed the company to stop the experiment, but the company did not care and sent Drive Salah to Egypt, and the company took this virus to make a vaccine from it and inject people with the virus. They become ill, and you sell the vaccine and earn money. Since then, Drive Salah is shocked and does not talk to anyone. We go back to the hospital and see the captain of the team. His name is Nader, and this team in which Ibn Yasin and Nader play, he has 2 children and his wife with him, but the injured Kareem attacked Nader's wife and transmitted the disease to her. But Nader was able to save his wife and killed Kareem, but after the disease passed to her, he locked his wife in a room alone and asked her the nurse does not inform anyone of her condition. Then Yasin arrives at Shahrukh and discovers that she has been killed. Yasin is able to communicate with the person who was helping Shahrukh open the laptop file, and he enters the site, but he needs a password. They see Shahrukh's body, he looks at her hands, finds letters and numbers, and discovers that it is the password. When he opens the file, they find the names of the people involved, including them. Saad and Samay, a friend of Shahrukh and others, know that Sama is the one who killed Shahrukh, and Yasin and Rami are trying to catch up with Samay, but Samay throws an injured person at them, and Yasin and Rani are able to lock the injured person and run away from him, and reach Samay, and he appears frustrated and tells them that they did all this for the purpose of reducing the human race due to lack of resources. And then Yasin and Rami know the location of the Lab C, and they go with Samay to there, because Samay is the one who has the ability to enter this place, and when they reach there, they find Zur. When pressed on him, he sees an elevator, and when they enter it, they discover a very large underground laboratory, and inside this laboratory there are many doctors who turned into zombies although they took the vaccine, and this means that the vaccine is not effective with the virus, and that the vaccine does not transmit the virus by looking, but it is transmitted by biting, so a door is opened that was present in the room, and an infected person appears to them, and Dr. Sama bites and kills him, and Rami is able to kill the infected person, and they leave quickly. While they are returning to the hospital, they discover that Rami's car has run out of gas, so they have to go to the nearest gas station and take gas for food. After that, we see the isolation areas that became full of infected people and turned into zombies, their condition deteriorated, and we see the government, which decided to move the uninfected people to remote and isolated places from the infected people. And we go back to the hospital, and there are two married women, and their names are Amir and Naha, but she loves money a lot, and there was also a man whose name was Fatin, who was trying to escape in a taxi, and because she is selfish, she leaves her husband and children and tries to escape with Fatin. At the same time, the people in the hospital wanted to leave the hospital and go to the protected areas that the government made, but while they were leaving, the injured attacked them, and many people died, and other people could return to the hospital again, and at the same time, the injured people inside the hospital could break the doors and go out on the people sound and messy. And there was an addicted girl who was trying during the chaos to steal from the hospital pharmacy a drug for her, and suddenly an infected person entered her with the virus, but the strange thing was that the infected person left her and did not attack her, even though she was doing a shower and the infected person left her. And we go back to Yasin, Rami, and the rest of the people who are with him, trying to isolate themselves from the injured. While they are sitting, Yasin plays a video of a train worker saying that there is a station in the Al Ain Al Sukna area, and he is trying to collect the largest number of uninfected people, save them and transfer them to the protection area, but at the same time, Captain Nader's son wants to see his mother, so he goes to her. His friend who is Amir's son and the patient attacks them and kills Ibn Amir, and Ibn Nader is able to escape, and also Huda's husband dies, and Captain Nader also dies because of those infected with the virus, and after many attempts to kill the infected, they quickly go to Rami's car, and the rest of the injured enter the hospital, and we discover the hospital director decided not to leave the hospital and leave the patients without protection. While they are on the road, Rami's car breaks down, and Rami gets out of the car to discover the cause of the malfunction. He discovers that the gas tank was punctured, so he is forced to complete the road on foot until they reach a deserted place, so he sits there until they rest. Until they arrived here, and of course she knew of her son's death and kept crying. And we return to the addicted girl while she was trying to steal a drug, and when her mother tried to stop her, she took the gun from Yasin to threaten her mother and take the drug from her, so she killed her by mistake. And we return to the lady who betrayed her husband with Saif, and when her husband knows about her betrayal, he yells at her, and at the same time the injured attack them, so the group tried to escape, but her husband Aziz throws his wife at the injured without anyone seeing him and takes her phone when the rest of the group asks about his wife, so Aziz tells them that she fell on the injured and died. And they continue their journey and find a candy factory on the way, so they enter to eat because they have been without food for a long time and slept inside the factory. But before they sleep, Aziz grabs his wife's mobile phone and calls the number that is registered in the name of my beloved. He discovers that Aziz's sword is trying to kill him, but that sword is ahead of him, and he is able to take his knife and stab Aziz with it. Of course, Nihal, after knowing Saif's true identity, left him and began to get close to Yasin. During their sleep, Yasin, Rami, and the rest of the group wake up to the sound of one of the injured, and they try to walk slowly without making a sound, but she is Amir's wife, who runs quickly because of her anxiety, and makes a sound, so the injured gather around her and eat her, and the rest of the group can go out, but while they are walking, they find someone whose hair is soft, and the injured eat his friends. No injured person attacked him, so drive. Yasin was surprised, but he continued walking until he reached the train station. And there they find someone who wants to kill Farida and her daughter. This man is Farida's brother and Farida's brother wants to kill him because she ran away from her family a long time ago and got married without the knowledge of her family. Indeed, Farida's brother hit Farida with bullets and she died. The rest of the group hurried to the train. In the last moments, they can board the train, and they look behind them and find the injured people catching up with them because of the sound of bullets hitting them. On the train operator talks to Yasin and tells him that the Egyptian army forces are doing their best to control the virus, and also transferring non-infected people to safe areas, but because of the large number of infected people around the safe area there are many infected people, so it is difficult to reach the safe area, but drive. Yasin is determined to go to there, and on the way, Fatin apologizes to his driver, whose name is Hamada, because he treated him badly, and the driver accepts his apology. During their conversation, they discover that the rest of the train cars are filled with injured people, and they will attack them. The rest of the group tries to get into the front cars, but Saif's sister precedes them and asks the train operator not to enter the rest of the group because they are injured, so the worker agrees, but they convince the worker that they are not injured, so he accepts the entry of a small part of them. In the end, the worker agrees to let the rest of the group enter, and after thinking, they discover that the best solution is to separate the injured car from the rest of the train. Rami sacrifices himself and stays with the injured car so that he can separate it, and the injured kill Rami. And after a while, we see Huda, Saif's sister, and she decided to tell the truth, and she says that you believe that Yasin was the reason why his son was infected with corona, but the truth is that Ibn Saif did not have corona, but he had a heart attack that led to his death. And the tests were present with Saif, and he refused to give them to Yasin until he felt guilty and believed that his son died because of the coronavirus, and Nihal left him. After that, we know that Yasin and Saif, a long time ago, were performing an operation on a patient, so Saif did something wrong that caused the patient to be killed. While the train was moving on rails, there was a broken rail, which led to the train overturning and the death of Dr. Saif and Fatin. When Huda wakes up, she decides to commit suicide. And they discover that there is a large group of injured people who want to attack them, so Yasin feels frustrated, and suddenly, while he is sitting next to the addicted girl, he discovers that the common thing between her and the son of the man who was left by the injured is that their hair is smooth, and that the girl told him before that her hair was curly, but she used creatine to straighten her curly hair, so he asks her if creatine completes you with her, so he knows that she has a bottle with her, so he concludes that the formalin that is inside the creatine bottle can protect them from zombies, so he puts some of it on his body and is able to take out the injured people's milk without them noticing it, and publish it. After that, Yasin arrived at the safe area, and there he found the doctor, the director of the hospital, and told him that the policemen and the army arrived at the right time to save me and the patients. And then drive. Yasin informs the army of formalin to protect them from the infected, and then they discover that the infected live for only 9 days, after which they die automatically, and after that the virus will end from the world. After a long time has passed, we see Yasin while he is in the hospital, and it becomes clear that he has returned to his work and returned to his wife, but in the end we see in the news bulletin and the broadcaster says that there is a new disease spreading among people called COVID-27. It's the end. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.